Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco. We're finishing our review on the Ghoulies series. We've already done 1 and 2. Now we're going to do 3 and 4. Of course, we'll start out with Ghoulies 3. I would call this a college frat story, frat standing for fraternity, where the Ghoulies talk and dress like humans. My assessment of that is very dumb. The famous actor Kevin McCarthy plays a weird professor with a screw loose in Ghoulies 3. It's mainly about one of the frat boys finding a comic book in the wall of the frat. He takes it to class where the mad professor, Kevin McCarthy, absconds it and reads it later, saying the words that bring the Ghoulies to life. This movie is more about these two frats and their competition for a title crown of who pulls the most and best pranks. The rest of the movie is about the professor's control over these human-like ghoulies. It's dumb, and although it was very, it was a story, and there were 2 parts to it, which made up the story. The Ghoulies were not, they were just not what they were in the beginning. And yeah, I guess they could have evolved, but I mean, these are like humans.
Oh, you mean like in Gremlins 2?
I don't know.
When the Gremlins evolved?
But they were like, I mean, they talked. I mean, I'm not talking about a gibberish language. I'm talking about like people, like human beings.
Oh, you mean like in Gremlins 2?
And they also wore clothes. And it was just too much. And I thought it was ridiculous. And the story about the fraternities arguing over who pulls the most pranks, gets this crown, and the crown was like this cardboard paper thing. It was nothing. And then they show them in class with the mad professor, and it's like high school, and college is not high school. They were throwing things, and it just was dumb. So, and the professor, Kevin McCarthy, I don't know why he did this role, because he's been in other stuff, a lot of stuff. Well, before he died, he passed away a few years ago. But anyway, I'll let Marco take over, but it's ew.
Ghoulies 3. This should not be called Ghoulies 3. They tell you that with the opening of the movie, when you see, it's so hilarious. This movie is like it's somehow the best movie in the series and the worst movie in the series at the same time, because at one end, this movie is a pretty good movie. It's a fun kids movie. It's very for kids.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Not with all that.
Well, no, I'll get to that. But because the story is paper thin, the jokes are as laughable as literally this guy getting his nuts rammed into a stairwell thing that you hold on to. That's what they think is funny. And that's a kid's thing. That's not something that adults laugh at, unless it's like Jackass or something like that. But this movie is it's so cartoony. There's moments where people blow up, and then they do the cartoony thing where, oh look, their clothes are all torn apart, and there's ash all over their face. That's what happens when people blow up. Wink, wink. And so this movie, at heart, is a kids movie. It's even more kiddie than Gremlins 2. But where it gets to the adult aspect, why this movie is rated R, is that there's lots of nudity in this movie. Lots of it. At one point, Sophie was watching it and she stopped looking at it because she was so uncomfortable at looking at the nudity, I guess. But the one aspect that really boggles me is that usually in these types of movies, you always get to see the main love interest nude, and in this movie, you do not get to see her nude, or even semi-nude, and I think that that's a big factor in why this movie is a failure, because if you think about all the best comedies like this movie, American Pie, Screwballs, uh, and all those other ones, you always get to see the main love interest nude. And so that's an epic failure. And then the comedy is subpar. There is some funny stuff, like there are these moments where people will walk in on the main character and he's in a bad situation, like he looks like he's doing something wrong, and that keeps on happening, and it's really funny. And I thought if they had played with that more, that would have been hilarious. Like if you had seen him like cleaning up after like a murder, or if there's like blood all over the place and they think that he did it, like that would have been funny if they had continued that theme throughout the movie. But this movie is just, I mean, the opening scene, you know this is not a Ghoulies movie. You have this guy sitting on the toilet, and it's an ancient magical toilet because it has the Ghoulies' faces in it, and the toilet is it's 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 a magical toilet that leads to the Ghoulie world or wherever. They don't even explain it. They could have explained it like in Beetlejuice, where they have the thing, they go into the other world and they go into that place and everything. They don't even do that in this movie. They just have the Ghoulies, they're in the toilet, and it's just so weird. And then they have the whole thing with the comic book. It's so Ghoulies came because of a comic book ritual? What? That is a kid's movie. Sophie?
Yeah. Well,
What do you think?
it's just really dumb. And what happens is this toilet is kind of like it's an antique or something. There's like this, like he said, there's on the outside, there's this metal, wasn't it metal? And then the engravings of the Ghoulies are on the metal. And then the thing is, behind the wall, I don't know, he accidentally punched his fist into the wall.
Yeah, and conveniently, this one little area with these specific parts of the tiles breaks away. That you can clearly tell that they kind of broke them ahead of time, and they made it so that you could just like punch that little area.
And that's where this, a comic book of all
Yeah.
things. Now, how many ancient civilizations do you know who did comic books?
Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, when was paper invented? And the ink, and I mean, just unbelievable.
Well,
So, but
it-
anyway,
this-
it's like a comic book. It's
yeah.
like something you get in a cereal box. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even. It doesn't even look like a real comic book. I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
That's really
I
stupid.
know.
It doesn't matter.
I know how to explain it. If you want to compare this to anything, compare it to I did not see the movie because I hate Transformers, but in the most recent Transformers, no, not Bumblebee, but the actual Transformers movie, they did this thing where they made it look like the Transformers have been around since the ancient times, and they were around when Abraham Lincoln was president, and they helped fight slavery, and they were knights in shining armor, and that's what this movie does. It destroys the mythology that they created in the first two movies, which is very confusing. But then you look up, I do a lot of research with movies to make sure that I know as much as I can, because I don't want to I don't want to rag on something if I know that it was because of like they didn't have the budget, or it broke, or wasn't, what was that one movie with the bat that they, oh yeah, Brides of Dracula, they had this really great looking bat, and then they lost it and they couldn't find it.
Oh.
And so I'm not gonna crap on that aspect of Brides of Dracula, because they lost their great prop, and
Mm,
so that's just an unfortunate accident.
weird.
But with this movie, it's like, what were they doing? What were they thinking? You know what? Remember how I talked about with Margot Robbie, how she likes to rip apart the comics and use them as toilet paper while she writes the script on the toilet? Well, I think that they were writing the script for this movie, and then it accidentally fell into the toilet, and then they picked it out, and that's this movie.
Well, I think they were all drunk and they were having a hangover. They started writing it when they were drunk, and then they fell asleep and they had terrible hangovers and with that massive. So sorry about that. We keep getting these fake calls, but it just
Robocalls.
it just seems like maybe they had an idea or two, but either they were high or they were drunk, and then they fell asleep and woke up with a massive hangover and finished writing the script and the storyboard and whatever for this movie, and not it's really not good.
Well, and then I complained about the violence in the second one. If I mean the lack of violence. If you thought that was bad, this movie has no violence, like none whatsoever. This movie's rated R. There's no violence in an R-rated movie.
Well, there is one murder, and I'm trying to think.
No,
they
there's
didn't
multiple
show.
murders.
Well, I mean, one real obvious one where the body pops out and is discovered.
That wasn't bloody. That wasn't
No,
gory.
it wasn't blood. I don't think they showed it, did they?
They did. They showed it. It was cartoony. It was like she was just sleeping, like she was in a coma or something.
Well, yeah, it was very. That's why it's like the only reason I remember it because I think the person who played in it was in a very famous comedy sitcom that was on TV, and I'm God, I can't remember what it was, but she was like a secretary or assistant or something.
You mean to tell me that I can, as a kid, I can go watch Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, where Dracula literally gets thrown onto a cross with blood spurting out all over the place, where they stake him earlier in the movie, and blood spurting out, and then he throws it at them and it doesn't even kill him. And then a girl gets burned alive with blood and everything, and you get to see it in graphic detail. They can watch that. That movie's rated G. But this movie is rated R, and there's not even a drop of blood. This is worse than all of those PG-13 remakes, these horror remake, quote, horror, not really horror, fake horror, remakes coming out nowadays that don't even, they have like a little blood. They have like little tiny bits of blood here and there, or CGI blood. This movie doesn't even have a drop of blood, and it's rated R.
Well, I just watched The Joker. Marco's already seen it and reviewed it, and I just now watched it yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, whatever. And I would call that more of a horror movie than this one ever will be.
Yeah.
Because there was murders and blood and gross stuff that
Sophie is over-exaggerating the Joker.
No.
The reason why she thinks the Joker has more violence is because the violence in that movie is portrayed very realistically to make you feel like it's actually being committed.
But it's more of a horror movie if you want to look at in terms of somebody just kind of snapping and going crazy when you don't expect them to. But at least the people who got hurt or killed, it was horror for them, and you could tell that on the screen. So, but the point is, this movie isn't a horror movie at all.
I still like it.
It's not a Ghoulies movie.
Do you like it? Sophie liked it.
No, I didn't.
You did. You said you liked it a little bit.
Well, like I just thought if you want to review it now, because I mean, what else are we gonna say? It's just
A lot.
No, it's not even worth it.
What did you think about? Let's talk about that effing love interest.
Well, the
crybaby, bratty bitch love interest.
Marco, I don't like that.
I don't care.
Well, anyway, the love interest is this girl who was on All My Children, which I used to watch years ago, and she was Edmund's girlfriend, and I think they got married on the show. They also got married in real life. I think it's Maria. I think that's who it is. I don't know. I can't remember. I haven't. Oh, Eva LaRue. That's her real name. And
Eva LaShrew? She's
Eva
a shrew?
LaRue, and she in this movie she's very, very young. So I think this might be one of her first role. But she was on All My Children for years. And anyway,
let's talk about what she does in this movie, Sophie.
Well, she just gets snippy and snotty and bitchy.
Yeah.
And,
what did you just say? What did you call her? Call her that again. Say it louder.
Call her that.
Say it louder.
Just say she acted.
Just admit it.
She acted bitchy.
Yeah.
And
that's what I thought, Sophie.
And almost like she was better than everybody in it.
She was, because let's talk about what she does, because it would have been fine if she had been nude a scene in the movie. I would have accepted that because that's what they do, and a lot it's very cliche what they do with her. She's one of those love interests where she's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna go out with you because you did this thing I didn't like, and so, oh, you did that, and so you're dead to me." But then he makes up with her 5 minutes later, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do something tomorrow." And then the next day she's like, "I'm mad at you again." And then the next day, "Oh, you thought we were together? I'm gonna date the opposing frat leader." And so, to spite him, on purpose, she dates the opposing frat leader. And let's get to what she says is the main problem. She says, "You're an adult in college, and you're participating in this prank war? How childish."
But they're both participating.
And guess what? Well, that's also, yes, but guess what she does? Dating the opposing frat leader. Like, that's gonna make this guy want to quit the prank war. That makes it even worse. Why would she date the villain? They're opposing fraternities, and she thinks that dating the opposing frat leader is gonna make him stop pranking them?
Okay. I think
no, we're not done. We're not rushing through this like we rushed through the Ghoulies 1 and 2.
But it's not worth it.
It is worth it, because Ghoulies 4, I'm just going to talk about the you-know-what scene, and then I'm going to talk about and it'll be done. Let's talk about the Ghoulies. There's only 3 Ghoulies in this movie, but to be honest, I really liked how this movie looked. I thought that this movie looked like a professional movie. Like, it looked very nice, and I liked the colors, and I liked the Ghoulies effects, and I liked the wardrobe. Like, I liked everything. I thought it looked like it could have been a great movie if they had changed the story, added in some violence, done something different. But the Ghoulies themselves, there's only 3 of them. You have this one that looks like a rat, you have one that looks like a cat, and then you have one that is bald. You know, the man ghoulie. They always have a bald man ghoulie. And in this movie they talk, they run around, they cause chaos, they drink beer. They have this really, quote, funny scene, like this is supposed to be funny, where they drink like 1,000 beers, and then they pile them up. They show like a time-lapse pile up of all the beer cans, and they think, oh, that's really funny, they drink beer. What's the problem with the Ghoulies in this movie, Sophie? they're pranking people.
Well, I just thought they made them too much like humans.
Not like humans. Gremlins.
Okay, well, I think I've only seen one Gremlin movie, so.
Did you see the second one?
And I haven't seen it in a long time. No, I don't think I did.
Well, Safi does not know. In the second Gremlins, let's talk about when this movie came out. This came out in 1991. Gremlins 2 came out in 1990, a year before this movie. So what? It's another ripoff. Just like Ghoulies 1 was a ripoff of Gremlins 1 and Poltergeist, this was a ripoff of Gremlins 2. And Gremlins 2, they have gremlins that dress up in clothes. They have gremlins that talk. They have gremlins that drink. They have a spider gremlin. They have a girl gremlin that falls in love with a boy, a human boy. They have a gremlin that runs a talk show. They have a gremlin that's a scientist. They have a gremlin that's half vegetable plant, so he grows vegetables out of him.
I've definitely not seen that
at all. What does that remind you of? Ghoulies 3!
Okay.
And so in Ghoulies 3, let's talk about something else they do. The Ghoulies are apparently attracted to human women, which has never been established in the Ghoulies franchise. They could have made that a thing in the first one and the second one. Like maybe the Ghoulies are pervy, but whatever. In this movie, they go into the shower, and then they peep on all these girls in the shower. And since this movie couldn't be rated X, guess what they did? They purposefully put soap on certain areas so that you could only see so much so that it wouldn't get an X rating. That is how graphic and weird this movie is. It is not a Ghoulies movie. No. What did you think about that scene, Sophie?
I thought it was stupid. It just didn't, it just doesn't have an impact on me like, oh, really?
It all looked the same, too. It did, and the Ghoulies were like, ooh. Kill them! Kill them! You're Ghoulies! You're evil! And let's talk about the finale, lastly, because this is getting a little too long for this shitty movie that no one cares about besides me or you. But the finale, the professor in this movie, he's professor. He talks like this. He's like, I'm Professor Ragnar, and I don't like prank wars. But I'm gonna wear the prank crown because I secretly like prank wars. Because he has the Ghoulies go and cause pranks and basically turn everything upside down in the prank war, and then he has them steal the prank crown so that he can wear it for himself.
Which is bizarre. That's why I said he was crazy.
Doesn't make any sense.
Half the movie is about these two fraternities that are having a war because they both want this crown, which is dumb. And the other part of the movie is about this professor who's a wacko, and I don't know if I said this, when he says the words, he brought the Ghoulies to life, which I said, but he also controls them by, what does he do? Threatening to rip up the comic? Well, whatever. So he gets them to do all kinds of things because he's controlling them.
Because the comic, apparently, if you... it's so hard to say this out loud without wanting to throw myself out the window. If you burn the comic book and destroy the comic book, you destroy the... That's just...
So that's, anyway, that's all this movie's about. It's boring. So I think we should move on. Oh wait, we have to review it. Okay, I thought that it was way over the top, and the way the Ghoulies were, because they evolved from like nondescript, very defined, to like like humans, but of course Mark was thinking that the writers were copying this Gremlins 2 movie, which maybe they were. I've never seen that movie, so I don't know. It sounds like it. Mark was having a fit. So, since it was on the top, over the top, Marco wanted to buy this bowl of Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes. And if you know what either one of those cereals are, you know they have tons of sugar. So it's just too much, and too much sugar. So there's too much nudity, there's too much fraternity, and there's too much crazy professor. So that's what I rated it as, this bowl of Lucky Charms and the Frosted Flakes. I don't know if this is just a holiday thing or this is a new cereal. But for some reason, I decided to get this, and I tried some, and
It's actually, no, it's really good.
Ugh.
You gotta try it.
I don't like
It is the best flavor of cereal that I have tried almost the whole year.
It's too much sugar.
It's Frosted Flakes, but then the marshmallows of Lucky Charms too. But the thing is, you think it's a lot of sugar, but this has the least amount of sugar out of all the cereals that we've tried this year. And so, actually, it's deceivingly sweet. Well, this movie, to describe it in another term, if you guys don't agree with food reviews for movies, this is the Thor Ragnarok of the Ghoulies series. You know, where they take this serious franchise, they rip up the mythology, they destroy the characters, and they make everything a big joke.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I still like this movie. I would watch this movie again. But if you take the Ghoulies out of it, though, and another thing, Sapi, you can't talk about the nudity. Who are you, Sapi? The nudity is not directed towards you.
No, I don't. I'm not looking at it like that. I just thought they didn't need it. The shower scene with the Ghoulies tomming into the shower, I thought it was stupid.
I thought that that was the most unnecessary nudity
well, that's
scene.
what I'm talking about.
I thought there was some really funny stuff in this movie, though, like the
girls showing their
the nymphomaniac girl.
The what is it? Those that one strap underwear. What is that thing called? Maybe I'll think about it.
I don't want to discuss that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. It doesn't add anything to the story.
No, there is some really funny stuff with this nymphomaniac girl where you think that she's having sex with this guy, and then it turns out she's just working out, and they're working out with this guy's workout equipment, and she's working out nude, and it's hilarious. And then later on in the movie, when she knows that there's going to be a panty raid, she's a nymphomaniac, and so she starts stripping in her bedroom and then opens up the window so that the fraternity guys can get in. And it's just hilarious. And then, of course, the security guard, we didn't even mention him. He's peeping on them, and he's a creep. And then the Ghoulies knock him out, and then they're peeping on her. That was really, really funny. And so, but I would rate this movie. Have you ever seen movie products in the store that have nothing to do with the actual movies? Like, I'll give you an example. As a kid, lots of movie products were directed towards me. And especially, I remember the Hulk chocolate syrup. And I actually really liked this. But it was just a green chocolate syrup. And it was called the Hulk chocolate syrup. And you drink it in chocolate and milk. And you make chocolate milk, and it would be green milk. And I really liked that, actually. But the point is that a lot of these movie-directed products, they don't change anything to them. they don't change any flavors to make like, oh, this is what a ghoulie would taste like if you fried them on the barbecue. Oh, this is what the beer would taste like if ghoulies made beer, and it would be ghoulie beer. It's just a product that you've already eaten before, and then slapped on the title, Ghoulies, blank blank. And so I give this movie a package of frozen waffles, Ghoulies waffles, quote unquote Ghoulies waffles. They don't change anything to the waffles to make it Ghoulies. You could have made it green. You could have added some sort of a candy or something to make it Ghoulies related. But no, they don't change anything. They just say, oh, these are Ghoulies waffles, so buy our Ghoulies waffles. And so, yeah, that's what I rate this movie. Those frozen waffles, they're good on their own, but it's not Ghoulies.
Okay. Well, I think we should get to the last one, which is a little sad because after all of this dramatic discourse by Marco and my disparagement of the over-the-topness of this last one, this one is kind of like Ghoulies 4 is like a sad shadow of its former self. There are only 2 ghoulies that are not puppets, but dwarves wearing Halloween masks. They mainly appear in every scene, whether the main characters know it or not. The young Jonathan from the first movie, remember? He's now a middle-aged cop, and he looks great, actually. He's very fit, and he looks good. I think he looks better than when he was younger. But anyway, he seems tired all the time. I mean, like he's sick. And you think, well, I'll tell you the rest. And so then you would think maybe it had something to do with that, but it doesn't. I don't know what the deal was. And he wears a jewel around his neck, which is a hearkening to his youthful days as a sycophant of his father. The evil version of himself is beckoning him from the dead in this movie, with the help of one of his former girlfriends who parades around in a scantily clad Victoria's Secret-like black leather costume. And I don't even want to say anything else. I'll let Marco, if he wants to finish it off with telling the story, because it really is not much of a story. That's what I said. It's like looking back behind you and it's a shadow, like a real light shadow, not even a dark one, a real light one, which is like a former version of itself. And I don't even know why they made the movie. It's bizarre. But the guy looks great. But like I said, in the movie, he acts tired all the time, and the only thing you think he's sick. The thing is, maybe it's because the evil version of himself is beckoning him from the dead, and so that's maybe draining his energy. I don't know, but he sits there and he falls asleep. And that's what I'm saying. It's very odd. And it's really a shame because he looks great. And I don't know. I think it's sad that if they couldn't do the movie right, then they shouldn't have done it at all. So, go ahead, Marco.
The Ghoulies 4. This isn't a Ghoulies movie either.
No, not with these 2 guys.
This is so bad.
Who really, and they didn't do anything bad. They didn't kill anybody. They didn't really hurt anybody.
They did. They killed one guy.
They did? God, I can't even remember that.
Remember when they had to steal something and then they beat him up and they did the light thing where they turned the lights on and off as they were killing him? They didn't show anything. There's no blood in this movie either. This movie, oh God,
It's very sad.
It was so
really
bad.
Sad and bad.
Yeah, because I got this over with. I watched it. And I said, I got to get this over with because I'm looking at the cover at these 2 little guys in Halloween masks and dressed up in robes.
Yeah, brown robe.
That's supposed to be Ghoulies. I just thought I gotta get this stupid shit over with
Marco.
and move on to something serious like Nightmare on Elm Street. But anyways, I apologize in advance. I think I'm getting a cold, so I'm a little stuffed up. If you are wondering why I sound so weird, but anyways, there is some stuff. I was kind of excited. I thought returning actor, this returning character from the first one, that's really cool because they have this thing where they kind of build up like who he is, and then all of a sudden they say his name. They say Jonathan Graves, and it's like, ooh, is this movie gonna be like really good? Is it gonna be like finally we're gonna get a continuation of the series instead of just random just out there and out there? Are we finally gonna get a real continuation of the story? No, not really, because they had the chance. They do all these flashbacks, and then when he finally explains his backstory as a quote occultist, it's basically a completely changed backstory where he had this girlfriend and she was really into the occult, and she was the crazy one, and she would do all these blood rituals and sex rituals, and that's what he was saying. And then she got put in an asylum, and she escapes, and she's wearing this skimpy outfit that is terrible, really embarrassing. And the actress who played this character is actually embarrassed to be in this movie. And I don't blame her. I'm embarrassed for her. I'm embarrassed for everyone that was in this movie, including the little guys, because they were terrible. They were like bickering with each other like this was some sort of a buddy Ghoulies movie. They're just like, yeah, me. I'm gonna make a joke and you're gonna laugh. We're gonna make some pop culture references. And another thing is you can't really tell what they're saying because they're speaking through these stupid effing Halloween masks, and so it sounds so weird and so bad and so low budget, like this movie was made with $10, and so you cannot understand them. They're not entertaining. They're not funny. They're not ghoulies. It's just trash.
And they actually, at the end, I think, I could have sworn they talked about, it sounded like they think they were going to do a sequel.
Yeah, they thought
like another one.
They
another
did.
Ghoulies.
I think, like, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god.
I'm glad they didn't do that because I would have pissed all over it.
Well, they could. I think maybe they were promised that or something.
Because this movie was made with $10. It was like they had infinite money with Ghoulies 2 and Ghoulies 3, and then all of a sudden they said, we're gonna move on to other things. We're not really gonna fund Ghoulies 4 because F you, F all the hard work that you put into this series, and F this series. The people who made this movie should be ashamed of themselves. They really should. Every single person, the lighting person, the camera person, the director, the producers, the camera person, I already said that, the cinematographer, the sound person, the editor, every single person who worked on this movie should hit themselves in the face for making this effing movie. This piece of crap, bargain bin, Goodwill VHS, dollar VHS from Goodwill, crappy movie.
Okay, hon.
No, we're not done yet because this movie is just so bad. I'm going to give you an example of a line from this movie. What are you doing, honey? I'm looking for a pack of cigarettes. Oh, I have some cigarettes over here. Never mind. I'm trying to quit. What is that? That's a line in a movie. They got paid to write that. And this movie is so bad that the main actor, and the main director, they were rewriting the script on the set. That's how bad this movie was. The script was so trash and horrible that they had to rewrite stuff on the spot. And you could tell compare this movie to Men in Black International. I heard stories about that crappy propaganda movie that I refused to see, about how Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, they hired writers to come onto the set to help them rewrite stuff in the script and add jokes and add stuff to the script because the script was so shitty and so minimal and didn't have anything in it. That's what this movie is, but with less of a budget. This movie isn't even enjoyable in like, oh, this is a fun, crappy movie. This movie is just abysmal. It's so hard to get through this movie. It's like taking medicine and you just want to squirt it down your throat and then get it over with. Because this movie, it's not even, there's no blood, there's no violence, there's no nudity in this movie either. So it's like they were eliminating stuff. The first one is
Okay, Mark.
the second one is the top of everything and has all the stuff you want: blood, violence. I think it might have some nudity. It didn't really need it. And then the third one takes out the violence, and then this one takes out the nudity too. And so what are we left with? This stupid police movie that no one cares about. This movie is for no one. This movie has nothing to do with the Ghoulies.
And the reason why he said it's a police movie is because the character is a detective now. The guy who used to be a cultist,
the main character,
is now a detective. So it's kind of based, well, I can't even say that, I don't know, but he's working as a detective in the movie. So, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But my review of it, because I think we should stop
Well,
soon.
I'm not done, so go ahead and
Okay,
review
well,
it.
I just want to say what I thought of it in terms of food, which is what we do. It's the last one. I ranked it last. In fact, we should say our rankings too. I ranked the second one first. I ranked the first one second. I ranked the Ghoulies 3 kept it as 3, and this one is definitely last. And I ranked it as unsalted potato chip. Now I have trouble because this medication that I take, tasting my food, but even I can tell the difference between a salted potato chip and a potato chip that wouldn't have anything on it. And that's what this movie is. Potato chips with nothing on them, which means they'd be tasteless, and I don't think anybody would like them, whether they take a medication or not. So that's my take of the whole series and the review of the last movie. And Marco, take it away.
My ranking for this series is Ghoulies 2 is easily the best. Ghoulies 2 is epic.
Yeah, it's very good.
And then the second place, I would put Ghoulies 3, because that's just a better movie than Ghoulies 1. But as a Ghoulies movie, I would put it at number 3 like Safi did. And then third would be Ghoulies 1, because that movie, it made me fall asleep multiple times. I had such a hard time watching Ghoulies. And then I was actually almost like not even wanting to watch the second one, to review it even. And so that's how bad the first one is. And then the fourth one is just, no effort, no creativity, no anything. The fourth one is horrible. It's nothing good I can say about the fourth one. If Safi wasn't here, I'd probably use more colorful language to describe the fourth one.
Hopefully not, because I think people get your point.
Well, they gotta feel like they're watching the fourth movie, and to feel like they're watching the fourth movie, you gotta take it to another level. Because there's a scene in this movie. Safi, you want to talk about the scene?
No.
Yeah, why don't you describe it? People like hearing your...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Jared Leto, car, throwing something.
Oh, no.
Yeah, describe...
Okay, well, the main character, which is the guy...
Get closer to the camera so that people can really hear this part.
It's really disgusting, and it was disgusting to them too, which makes me wonder if it wasn't real, the real deal. But the main character is driving along in his car, and he's with another police person who's a plainclothes police person. It's a woman actually, and they stop next to a pickup truck because there's two lanes and they're all going and they're going in one direction, and it's a man and a woman in a truck, pickup truck, which is sitting up higher than the car, and they throw a condom, a used condom, into their car because the windows are open, and that is so disgusting. It makes me want to erp. And I wasn't going to mention it, but Marco insisted that I mention it for some reason, like it's going to embarrass me or something. It's just stupid, okay? It's stupid. So that's it. Like I said, I don't want to say any more about it because there's nothing to say. I just think the main thing I want to say, I think it's a terrible shame that the main character couldn't have had a better tie-in to his very first movie, to the very first movie in the series, and that it was so weak and plain, like plain potato chips. And why this guy? I mean, I have no idea. Maybe he was in other movies. Maybe, and who knows what he did? He actually he'd been working out. That's for sure. Remember, we said he was in the first movie, but he was not in the second or third one.
Yeah.
Somehow they got him to be in the fourth one. It probably has to do with cha-ching, okay? But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it. And I guess Marco is very happily titillated by what I just said.
Because it is the one we don't even need to go in depth on this movie to talk about how bad it is. No, we're not really. I mean, I could talk about this movie for hours if you guys
Nobody
wanted me
wants to hear it.
We'll see. But that one scene perfectly describes how bad this movie is.
Yeah,
the
I
fact
guess
that
so, in a nutshell.
The fact that they felt like they had to do that. Why did they have to do that? Who knows? Why? Who thinks that's funny? It's disgusting and gross.
And they thought it too. You could just tell.
And it probably was.
It looked real.
It probably was real, and they thought, oh, we're going to be like the big directors and get a genuine reaction out of doing something shocking. And
I don't think they needed to do to make it look any more real than they did to get the reaction that they got.
God, that was horrible. That was.
It was funny. The people in the pickup truck, it's like they didn't do it. It's like it didn't faze them whatsoever. There was no. I don't remember them going laughing or there was no response.
Yeah.
About what which was to me that was even odd.
I guess that's what they do. They go.
You know, if it was like these teenagers or gang members throwing it, you know, and they would like sneer and laugh.
Yeah, like in Adventures of Babies.
Yeah, but there was no. It was just like they, you know, how people smoke a cigarette or something and they'll throw it out the window, which is disgusting too, because it's pollution and litter with tobacco products. That's what it was like. They just threw it out the window like they were throwing out a used cigarette. It was really weird. That was probably, to me, that was even, if you wanted to put two faces on it, one face was the horrible grossness of throwing that into somebody's car, which I don't think they meant to do. That's the thing. They're sitting up higher, the car's sitting lower, they're right next to it.
And of course the female has to catch it. The female character.
Yeah, it went into her lap or something. Oh, God. Anyway, and the other half of it is there's no response by the people who did it. Like, they didn't even know. It was like, they do it all the time. Like, I just throw condoms out the door of my vehicle like I was smoking a cigarette and throwing the butt out the window. Like, they're the ultimate litter a couple, I guess. But anyway, Marco, can you finish up?
I'm trying to. You're the one stuck on the scene. I think it's because you're so embarrassed.
I'm just thinking. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what the hell? So, okay, go ahead and finish
Okay.
it up, Marco. We got to finish.
It's just when you think about what they could have done, like, it would have been so easy. Like, they're so lazy, they can't even do anything right. There is one sequence that I enjoyed a lot with the car where the demon, I guess, apparently takes over the car because they can do that now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and there's this woman in the car and she has no control over it, and it goes on for quite a bit. And the car just keeps crashing into other cars, and finally it crashes into an electrical plant thing and then explodes. And I thought that was awesome.
That was a good part. I don't know
Yeah.
how they came up with that in comparison to the rest of the movie. I forgot about that part, but yeah. that was actually a good part.
Yeah, you were
And
too
it did
busy
go
focused on the other scene.
It did go on and on and on.
It like with a smaller budget, it would have felt like it would have gone on for like 1 minute and it would have been rushed. But with this movie, it really felt like they put effort into that one sequence. But
how would you? Oh, you've already ranked the movies. How would you?
How would I rate
review
this one?
in terms of food?
I already kind of said it earlier. I was talking about medicine. This one time I got really sick with this flu, I guess it was, or bronchitis, and they gave me this pink medicine where I had to use this plastic syringe.
I think it's Ventolin or something.
To squirt it down my throat. And that's what this movie was. And it was dreadful. There was some good medicines that I tasted as a kid, like the peach medicine that you get for having ear infections. That was really good. That always was a great medicine to.
That would have been an antibiotic.
That tasted really good, but then this medicine just tasted awful. It actually was so gross and disgusting and chemical tasting that it would affect what I would eat. So, like, I would eat something after that was like pizza or like something like that or soup, and it would affect the taste of that food and make it taste bad. Like, I can't even enjoy food because I had to take this disgusting pink medicine. And you just want to get it over with just as quickly as possible. Just squirt it down your throat and get it over with. Because this movie, even the finale is terrible. The finale, it's like stuff happens, you think they're in trouble, and then they're not in trouble because something happens, and it's not even worth talking about because I don't want people to be tempted to watch this movie.
Don't be tempted. It's
dumb. Because
it's not worth your time, okay? Just watch the second one.
Yeah, just watch the second.
That could have been a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Really.
But then let's get back to the third one. The finale with the third one, the professor and the ghoulies are fighting them. And actually, I forgot to mention, the main character of the third one is really cool. I liked him. I thought he was a great character. I thought that he would have been a great character in a better Ghoulies movie. And at the end, he's basically with his girlfriend. His girlfriend's taken hostage. And the professor, he's using the comic book and he's doing stuff. And then they kill the professor by knocking over a bookcase. And I think they squirt the ghoulies with a squirt gun. They squirt glue all over him, all over them. And then the professor comes back after they destroyed the comic book. Or they did a ritual. And can you describe his stomach has a ghoulie face in it. And his stomach is talking like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he's like, I am the book.
Oh, yeah.
And then so they throw the book into the magical toilet, and then they flush it down the toilet. And that's how they defeat this monster. This horrible creature. So scary. Just terrible. And so, yeah. But and so this series is just, it's such a bad series. It's really a wonder why people consider this an American horror comedy classic series. Because the first one's trash, the second one is a masterpiece, the third one is a goofy, cartoony trash movie, and the fourth one is a goodwill, $1 VHS that you throw out in the trash and just don't let anyone buy it. So, that's it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.